Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogram Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. I follow my guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Welcome, everyone. I can't even believe my luck, but I am so honored and so fortunate to have world-renowned scientist and best-selling author, Dr. Sachin Panda, with us today. Dr. Panda, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes. So I just a background, I went to the American Psychiatric Association conference and I saw that Dr. Panda was speaking and I had to go see his talk. I have read the Circadian Code, which we'll talk about. And I just wanted to hear him in person. And then I just was brave and asked him to be on the podcast. And here you are. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
you're
I'm
doing great in communicating science to general audience. We scientists are not very good in telling people what we do. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, absolutely. And you are very good. I saw you on the Huberman podcast and was joking with you before that you have amazing podcast stamina. This will not be as much of a marathon, but I hope to get as many questions in as possible. Before we do that, I'm going to read a little bit about Dr. Panda. So hang tight, Dr. Panda. Dr. Sachin Panda is a world-renowned scientist whose groundbreaking work in chronobiology has transformed our understanding of how the body's internal clocks govern health, weight, energy, and aging. As a professor at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, Dr. Panda has dedicated his career to exploring the science of circadian rhythms and their profound effect on human physiology. His pioneering discovery of the blue light sensing protein melanopsin helped explain how light regulates the brain's master clock and has influenced global recommendations on sleep hygiene and screen use. I know I have changed my screen use based off of this research. Dr. Panda is also celebrated for his research on time restricted eating, showing that when we eat may be as important as why we eat. His work demonstrates that aligning meals, activity, and rest with the body's natural rhythms can reverse metabolic disease, enhance longevity, and restore vitality without requiring caloric restriction or extreme diets. That's what I'm all about, you guys. So this is so exciting to me. They're his best-selling book, The Circadian Code, and he has just recently written one, The Circadian Code. Is it diabetes
The
edition?
diabetes scored, yes.
The Diabetes Code. Dr. Panda has brought the science of biological timing to the public in an accessible and empowering way. With warmth, brilliance, and unwavering dedication, he continues to shape a new era of health rooted in the rhythms of nature. Dr. Panda, welcome.
Thank you.
I really love to explore people's inspiration on this podcast and what drew them to this research. So, what drew you to the study of biological clocks, and how did this early research lead to the insights that informed the Circadian Code books?
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. That goes back to 30 years or so. But, when I was finishing college and starting to think about what to do in life, I was drawn into biomedical research. But at the same time, I realized that in biomedical research, typically we compare the body to a machine or a car. And just like you can start the car or start a machine at any time of the day or night, it will still run the same. A body is not like that. If you ask me to do this podcast at 1 o'clock in night, then there is no way I'll be awake and talking to you. So
Mhm.
that struck me that our body is not the same between morning and evening, or when we go to bed, we go to bed in one state, very tired, and our brain is very confused and foggy, and we wake up very differently if you had a good night of sleep. So I
Mhm.
was drawn into this question. what happens to our body throughout 24 hours, and is there a reason behind it? And if so, then how can we leverage that to improve health, prevent disease, accelerate cure, or even find new medication that target this timing in biology?
So, give me a picture of how your research began. Like, what did you first start to look at? And then, how did you discover these light sensing protein, melanopsin, and tie that into circadian rhythms?
Yeah, so my undergraduate research was on undergraduate degrees in actually agriculture or plant biology. And most people may not know that plants also have a strong circadian clock. And those who have seen the video of a sunflower plant can appreciate it, like how the sunflower leaves wake up in the morning, harvest the light, and then the sunflower kind of tries to look at the sun, and then at night the sunflower leaves actually droop down as if they're going to sleep.
Mhm.
So and that process actually helps plants to harvest sunlight and increase the efficiency of carbon fixation of making food. Making all the food that we eat ultimately comes from plants, and that increases. Having a clock actually helps the plant to kind of open the shop before the sunlight comes in, and then they shut down the shop before sun sets. And my interest was how the plant has a clock. So I was working on a mutant plant that actually had a slightly longer clock. And the bottom line is, after I cloned this particular gene in the plant, realized that this quote unquote clock gene was actually tied to NAD metabolism. That means to energy balance in the cell. So that was a aha moment that, well, actually the biological timekeeping is really linked to how the plant is sensing energy, making energy, or storing energy, all of that. And as plants always have to sense light, I was also primed to the idea of how humans or mice sense light and reset our clock. And until that time, it was known that our usual rod and cones that we have in our eyes that give us vision so that we can navigate throughout day and night, those rod and cone cells are not necessary for resetting our clock. So that means there are many blind people who cannot see, but when they fly from west coast to east coast or vice versa, then they do get jet lag for the first 3 or 4 days, and then they can reset to the same time zone, just like rest of us. So that was like interesting that blind people can still reset their clock, and but there are some blind people who unfortunately have lost both their eyes because of surgery or accident. They cannot reset their clock. So that means the light going through the skin, because we always think that our skin can sense light, we get a tan, or vitamin D is produced in our skin in response to light. None of that process seems to be sufficient to reset our sleep wake cycle. So that's why I was curious, what is in that pie that is not rod and cone that resets our clock? So that led to the research. And this is where I must also emphasize how foundational research actually helps make big breakthrough. Like, for example, we often forget that research is not all about treating patients. Sometimes research to figure out, for example, how a frog senses light and darkens its skin, like how the frog gets a tan. That kind of research actually led to the discovery that frog skin actually has a protein called melanopsin. So the skin cells that are darker, those are called melanosomes because they are pigmented cells. And opsin typically refers to a light sensing protein. So that's how it was called, melanopsin. So it was not me, but some other people who were curious about how frog gets a suntan. They figured out that there is a light sensing protein called melanopsin. And this is one example of how foundational research funded by honest taxpayers actually leads to some discovery. And then another stream of foundational research that was trying to sequence the genome of humans so that we know what genes are. and also at the same time genomes of mice, flies, and all these organisms that was going on. And then we figured out that this gene that makes a frog get suntan is actually present in very few cells in human eye or mouse retina. And these few cells are not the ones that we use to see the world, but these cells were never known to have a light sensor. So this is an example of how very foundational research in two different, completely unrelated fields, genome or DNA sequencing, and how frogs change the skin color came together and we discovered that this gene is there. And then we said, okay, so let's figure out what this gene does. So another type of foundational research that started in 70s and 80s to figure out how to change a gene in a mouse or human, now what we call gene therapy. So in 2000, 2001, we kind of did a gene therapy in a reverse way. We said, okay, so let's take out this gene from mouse and then see whether the mouse gets jet lag or not. And then we found that the mouse was getting severe jet lag if they don't have this blue light sensing protein.
Oh,
So
poor
that's how
little
this
mouse.
came together.
That is an amazing interconnection of species and studies. I am so grateful to the sun tanning frog
You
and
know,
that little jet lagged mouse
yeah.
to bring us to circadian clocks. So, if you could explain to maybe our less science minded people exactly what is our circadian clock and why are they essential to everything from digestion, sleep, mood, weight, immunity? What is it about this clock that is so important?
Yeah, so we not only we humans, almost every living, moving animal, and also almost all plants on this planet have what we call a circadian clock. Circadian literally means 24 hours